This is going to be a little bit of a different type of video because I normally don't really react to other types of videos, but since I main Spear Dagger and some of you have sent me this video from Aragon where he made the Explosive Fury versus Brutal Fury damage comparison video, and some of you told me also there's a lot of conflicting, contradicting and inaccurate information in this video. And you also asked me if I can check it out to see how it's different than from what I am recommending people should play and how much different it actually is. So this is the first time I'm actually watching this video, so I'm gonna try to react and comment and see what's wrong and what's good in this video.
With Spear and Dagger, some of you may be wondering what's better, to go with Brutal Fury or to have Explosive Fury. So in this video, I want to cover the benefits of both and which is actually better for dealing more damage. You may have been getting conflicting information. Some people say Brutal Fury is better. Other people are saying, myself included, that Explosive Fury can be better. And ultimately, which one is best? Let's have a look at a breakdown of the math. You can see exactly how much damage the abilities will deal based on just a percentage plus the base damage, and then looking at the hit count. So Explosive Fury in this example is 5 hits of 360 base damage plus 100, and that is also boosted by 40% against monsters. But then if you look at Brutal Fury, when you use that specialization, this becomes 180% of base damage plus 50 5 times, and then you can actually use this ability 3 times when you use this specialization. You will use it 2 times when you get 5 burst stacks in your target, and you'll use it a 3rd time if you get like shock on your boss, which means you're going to have to use Abyssal Cleave before it to apply that shock to be able to use that 3 times. That means this can be a 15 hit attack.
Okay. Let's pause right here because this is not how this skill specialization works. Like this here with the additional thing, it literally doesn't work like that. Like you don't need to apply shock to have this activate to be able to use it 3 times. You can use it 3 times if you have 5 burst stacks, and this shock, this skill specialization only gives you an option that you can use it 3 times without having 5 burst stacks. So based off of what he just said, I can already tell that his calculations are going to be completely off, because he's going to be calculating Brutal Fury without this, and with this it actually deals significantly more damage. So I can already tell the calculation is going to be off. But just to explain in game what it means, like if you read what it says that you can use Brutal Fury once, it stabs it 5 times consecutively. And then if you have 5 burst stacks, you can use it 2 additional times. So that means 1 plus 2 equals 3. And this one, it's not really written properly. It's really hard to understand what it works, but if you actually test it, but this allows you, if you stun it with Abyssal Cleave, you can use it without having 5 burst stacks. So let me just demonstrate it like here. If you apply 5 burst stacks, you see 5 burst stacks, 1, 2, 3. So that's 3 usage with 5 burst stacks. You don't need any Abyssal Cleave. And now I applied conditional hit, 0 stacks. I'm gonna use stun. And as you can see on a stun target, you can use it 3 times without 5 burst stacks. So that's exactly how it works. So what he explained in the video is not accurate information. It's not how it works. You can still use it 3 times with 5 burst stacks. You can use it 3 times with the stun without 5 burst stacks. But combined, it doesn't give you any benefit. So you wouldn't really need to use this after this. To gain the maximum amount of damage, you want to use Abyssal Cleave, and then afterwards you want to use Phoenix Barrage, because this is going to give critical hit damage increase and critical chance increase on the next skill, and this also gives you a 20% damage increase on a stun on shock targets. So this combination works the best. And then with this, you're going to get increased critical damage by 15% for 3 seconds. And then after Phoenix Barrage, you will want to use Brutal Fury 3 times, which with the 5 stacks is going to have 15% damage increase, plus the 15% critical damage. So these 3 skills in combination are going to do insane amount of damage. Okay, let's go back to the video.
Without the shock, it's only a 10 hit attack. So it's very simple to just compare the two based on that percentage and the base damage, and then the hit count. In this example, you can see Explosive Fury would deal just over 20,000 damage. Now, because we're doing multiple hits and with Spear and Dagger, we can combine that with, say, Umbral Spirit, and Explosive Fury allows us to then use Javelin Inferno 5 times as well. So again, in this example, you can get upwards of nearly 34,000 total damage. If we compare that versus Brutal Fury, where you would use, say, Fatal Stigma as that second skill,
I knew he was going to do calculation with 10 hits, but even it's like less damage with 10 hits.
So you can see between the two, yeah, Explosive Fury would clearly be better. But this is
but the calculation's wrong.
Brutal Fury only getting 10 hits.
Okay, let's see with the 15.
Only use that ability twice, which is normally all you can do when you don't have Abyssal Cleave, that shock effect on your target. And even to get 10 hits, 2 casts, you have to put 5 burst stacks on your target. So you're going to have to cast, say, your Gale and your Culling Arc. We'll do that.
Yeah, that's
just
normally
here.
Use it.
You can see you get those 5 burst stacks, and now you're able to use Brutal Fury twice. You can see, use it once and then twice. However,
he literally used it 3 times and he cut off the video. Like, look at this. He said you can use it twice, but he cuts off the video as he's using it 3rd time. Like, it literally shows the wrong thing.
Brutal Fury twice.
Look at this.
You can see, use it
1,
once and then
2,
twice.
3. He says use it once, twice, and then uses it 3rd time and cuts off the video mid 3rd cast. Like, literally, like, what's, like, I don't get it.
However, you can use it a 3rd time.
That's completely wrong.
You use Abyssal Cleave before it. And that is somewhat limiting because it's got a 20-second cooldown. So again, you'll get the burst stacks on your target here, then you'll use your Abyssal Cleave, and then you can use your Brutal Fury.
He used it 2 times here now. Like, what? He applied 5 burst stacks, used the Abyssal Cleave, and then used it 2 times because his attack speed was too slow and it went on the cooldown. Like, look
Here,
at this.
then you'll use your Abyssal Cleave, and then
like, you literally don't need to use any of this. Like, look, 1, 2,
Brutal Fury.
there was not a 3rd cast.
And that
There's literally no 3rd cast. Like, in the previous clip, he shows that he used it 2 times, but then he cuts off the clip in the middle of the 3rd usage, and then where he's supposed to show it usage of 3 times with 5 burst stacks and the cleave, he uses it 2 times.
definitely
Like,
results
literally
in more
contradicting
damage. 15
wrong
more hits,
information.
you can trigger
Like,
Umbral Spirit more.
but yeah, the
and
calculation are
combined
good.
total
Like,
damage
it's
would go
more
up to
damage. It's 100% more damage.
36,000, which compared
15 hits
to
of Brutal Fury.
Explosive Fury is about, in this example, a 3,000 damage increase, which is about an 8% damage difference. So yes, in a burst case scenario where you can put Abyssal Cleave on your target,
He still keeps
before you
doubling
use
down
Brutal
on
Fury,
this.
your
You
Brutal
don't
Fury
need that.
can perform better.
You
So
don't need
in
that
some
skill
situations,
specialization.
particularly Gate of Infinity, particularly
The whole
with
video,
short
he just
completion
keeps
times,
doubling down on
Brutal
it.
Fury will be better.
Should
And
have
if you're
just
wondering why I
read
combine
what it
with,
says
say,
and tested
Fatal
it properly.
Stigma, not some other skill. That's because out of all of these, it's going to be the best performing one, and in general, you already want to be using Blood Leech Aura. And some people are scoffing at the fact that I'm saying Blood Leech Aura is good, and you can see it actually is here. And a big reason is because you're
Personally, Blood Leech Aura, I didn't have good experience with it. I probably wouldn't use it in a PvE build. There's other options and other skills that are much better and deal more consistent damage with a lower cooldown that you can actually use over Blood Leech Aura. The one thing Blood Leech Aura is good for is in PvP because it can trigger multiple hits from the Umbral Spirit or Thunder Spirit, and it can actually heal you. But in a single target build, I probably wouldn't use it, even though it can trigger more hits. Overall, the damage, I would say, over longer periods of time wouldn't be that high.
base damage. If you compare the Dagger's maximum 270, Spear is going to be a lot higher at like 515. And so your Spear skills will do like twice as much damage as your Dagger skills will. So that damage over time combined with even Umbral Spirit will result overall in more damage. So you use that one anyway. And then compared versus the others, you could potentially use Javelin Surge.
I mean, he used this calculation based off just like percentages and, you know, the formulas. But in reality, does it actually do that much damage? Like, I'm not entirely sure. I've never really tested if what the calculation on the skill description actually says and what the damage it actually does. I never really tested it, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think Bloodleech Aura actually deals that much damage. I really don't know.
Can be a useful option, but I found you can't really take advantage of the brand effect so well because this cast time is just too long, and if you use it in the middle of your rotation, you're sacrificing the extra damage boost you would gain by the...
Yeah, I actually dropped the Javelin Surge from my build and I'm still like experimenting because I noticed that the cast time is actually super long and then you get stun locked kinda in like an animation after it, and you kinda lose like 2 seconds, and the damage and the brand effect you get from it, it's not actually worth it, and you can actually replace it with something better. I mean, in this case, actually Bloodleech Aura could be a good replacement instead of Javelin, but I don't use it. I kinda put like something else in it, kinda using Brutal Incision and Cleaving Moonlight instead of Javelin now, but you could try experiment with the Bloodleech Aura. I'm actually going to try and test it out after I watch this video until the end to see if it actually makes any difference.
Uptime of Umbral Spirit, your poisons, and it can just end up not worth it. But of course, if you're in Gate of Infinity, you can charge it up as the first thing you do as your attack. It can be viable. Using Gate of Infinity here as a testing ground to maximize your damage output is okay in some situations when you have bosses that you can't just cheese the mechanics. A lot of the case these days, Gate of Infinity is pretty much how can you abuse them to just exploit the mechanics with, say, stuns, positioning, and ultimately just cheesing the fight, rather than...
Yeah, Gate of Infinity is like all about cheesing the fight, cheesing the boss and getting the fastest time, but some of the bosses actually can be used to DPS test and test your, damage, and because some of them don't have the mechanics straight at the beginning, and you can use like a full rotation before the boss goes into the mechanic, and you actually have to do the fury dodges and block some of the times and reposition, so it's like a good indicator of how much damage you can actually do to a boss, better than like a training dummy. But the ultimate, the DPS test, if you wanted to like super min-max your damage, is going to be Dimensional Trials, and because the fights are prolonged there and they last like longer periods of time, especially if you do higher tiers, that's probably going to be the best way that you can test the damage and see how much time difference you're actually getting, lower or higher, if you're doing it with the same party and with the same people.
Actually dealing good damage. You may see, say, a great sword and spear doing super well on some of them because
he's cheesing it with like a shadow escape.
Beginning, they end up with like
he's teleporting outside of the maze, so the maze drops lower faster, and then the maze drops, and then you can attack the boss while the boss doesn't even appear. You can attack it like completely while the boss is not even spawning. You're still doing damage, but the boss is invisible. So it's kind of like a, I don't know, exploit, cheese, bug, whatever you want to call it, but yeah.
In 5 seconds versus, say, some other weapon combination which can't perform a stun lock is not going to be able to perform it within that duration. So honestly, Gate of Infinity right now is a pretty terrible place to actually test your damage. But if we want to look at an ideal rotation then with, say, Brutal Fury, because you want to take advantage of this extra, say, 8% more damage difference in burst case scenarios, you can see this is what I would go with. And I can confirm the entire rotation is a bit more damage. For example, this rotation here was 305,000 damage on the boss versus my Explosive Fury rotation was 292,000 damage on the boss. So there is that little bit of a damage difference, and it's noticeable. You can have a look at the difference of the hit points on the dummy from the beginning to
I'm gonna test the Bloodleech Aura after
and you
this.
will see that 305,000.
Okay, this rotation, yeah, that's a standard rotation that I use. I don't use Bloodleech Aura. I was using the Brutal Incision here and Javelin Surge, but I dropped that. But yeah, I'm definitely interested to test the Bloodleech Aura, because if the damage really is that much different, I'm gonna consider putting it in my rotation as well.
Some damage difference, but you can see the rotation is very similar. However, we need to change Abyssal Cleave and add in Fatal Stigma and we no longer have Javelin Inferno at the end. You still want the Inject Venom,
It's
the
a standard
Sentinel's
rotation, it's
Bastion,
pretty
the
good. Yeah,
Umbral
that's
Spirit,
pretty much what I
Bloodhuge,
use.
Aura, Gale, Calling Arc, Cleaving Moonlight, Fatal and Stigma, and then yeah, the Abyssal Cleave, you can use it before you use Phoenix Barrage.
Yeah, you have to use it before Phoenix Barrage.
Cleave effect. There's not much point using Abyssal Cleave just before you use Brutal Fury, because only the first attacks, the first 5
still doubling
hits
down on
are
this.
going to be
Wrong.
boosted by this, and not
Wrong
say
info.
the following 10 attacks. So it's better to just improve Phoenix Barrage.
He should have just like tested the problem. I mean, he tested it, he showed it in a clip, and then like he just didn't realize like what's going on, I guess.
Fury out. And so again, that's the entire rotation, and that's versus the Explosive Fury rotation right here that you would use, where you can then use Javelin Inferno at the end. And keep in mind, the only way to actually get 3 casts of Brutal Fury is the requirement of having Abyssal Cleave cast.
He's still talking about this. It doesn't work like this.
So depending on your group you're in, you might not have enough cooldown to be able to actually take advantage of that very often. So it can be better having Explosive Fury, where you can use that still 5 times while there's a bit of downtime, and be able to have better sustained damage. Because you can see Explosive Fury or Brutal Fury only have like nearly a 12-second cooldown, so you can use this like at least twice before
it will increase your damage, but
cooldown. So if you have Brutal Fury
is better in this case.
2 casts of that when you don't have Abyssal Cleave up, versus always having the ability to cast Explosive Fury 5 times. But if you have bow users who put Deadly Marker on the boss, then there's generally no problem to perform these full rotations back to back, meaning yes, the burst rotation can be a little bit better. But I'll
not a little bit, a lot better.
If you have mobs to kill, like groups of enemies, having this setup with Explosive Fury and Javelin Inferno, it's just huge. The amount of multi-target damage you gain from these 2 skills is just insane. And when you're on your burst rotation build, you miss that. Like, Brutal and Fury is still a little bit of multi-target, but you don't have the Javelin Inferno. The only way to actually make use of Javelin Inferno is by getting Ember stacks, which you then have to have Explosive Fury to gain. So if you want a
I mean, you don't really need AoE damage in like these dungeons, like the mobs die like fairly fast, even like with literally not using Javelin Inferno or Explosive Fury. But generally, a lot of people complain about mana issues with Spear Dagger, and this is why, because you're playing Explosive Fury and Javelin Inferno. That's why you have mana issues. If you play Brutal Fury and you play no Javelin, you wouldn't have any mana issues.
Build setup, then absolutely go with these abilities with Explosive Fury and Javelin Inferno. I explained it more in depth in my previous video, and yes, these are the specializations, and for single target on bosses this would be your rotation. But again, min-maxing a little bit more.
Also, when it comes to Slaughtering Slash, I personally don't use this one because it deals the exactly same damage as the one without, except you have to use it twice, and it's a little bit slower. But the upside is that you don't have to waste 7 skill points, and you can use those 7 skill points into an actual skill that can make a difference, give you more utility or give you more damage.
For burst case scenarios, Brutal and Fury can be a little bit better with, say, this damage rotation.
Not a little bit, a lot better.
That helps to compare both of those, and why you will find, yes, people claiming that Brutal Fury is better. In specific burst case scenarios, it can be. It's just heavily reliant on having Abyssal Cleave to actually be able to cast this 3 times. If you can only cast it twice, then it's significantly worse than just Explosive Fury, a whopping 23% worse. So it's definitely not as good for sustained damage if you don't have deadly markers from bow users in your group. Ultimately, thanks for watching. A special thank you to all these channel members, and we'll see you guys.
You don't need to use Abyssal Cleave to proc it 3 times. With a conditional hit, you just need 5 burst stacks to proc Brutal Fury 3 times. He kept repeating that like 10 times in the video, and it's wrong. It's not how it works. You don't need it. You can always have 3 stacks. It's very easy to do it. You can do it with 1 usage, literally with 1 usage of Calling Arc. If you literally have this skill specialization, you can with 1 Calling Arc. As you can see, I add 5 burst stacks. You don't even need to use Gale Rush. And then 1, 2, 3. Very easy. You don't need Abyssal Cleave. He even showed it in the clip, but he cut off the clip. But yeah, the whole video is based off of trying to say that Explosive Fury would deal more damage, but it actually is completely opposite. It is kind of close, but in the long run, you're going to save up yourself a lot of mana, you're going to deal more damage, and yeah, I need to test the Bloodleech Aura to see if it actually does so much damage and if it actually makes a difference, because I didn't really take the skill serious. But according to his calculation, it could be a potential filler skill because I don't really know what else I can use. I'm probably going to also make like an updated video because I've changed a lot of my gear pieces and I've changed some of my builds. I'm going to be updating them all on the quest log, and I'm going to be also making like an updated version of a video so you guys can like see what's changed and what didn't change. Yeah, let me know in the comments if you want to see more of this type of content, me just watching a video and reacting and talking over the video, giving my own thoughts. Yeah, thank you for watching, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.